Good morning. Welcome to a brand new week and a brand new edition of Frank and Candid. Hope you had a great weekend, enjoyed your Independence holiday, and I'm glad to have you back. We begin a week of hopefully production. Sometimes after a weekend, you still need another day, right? to get back into things, but hopefully we'll be moving on. All right. In the news, Justin Trudeau's Liberal Party has narrowly won Canada's election, but it failed to secure a majority. This is Trudeau's third federal election win, but his critics say the poll was a waste of time. The Liberals are projected to win 156 seats, short of the 170 seats needed for the majority that Trudeau was seeking with this early election call. The Conservatives had held onto their main opposition status and are expected to win about 122 seats. It was, as they say, a failed gamble for Trudeau. The election, which took place during a fourth pandemic wave in Canada, was the most expensive in the country's history, costing some 600 million Canadian dollars. The projected results suggest a parliament that is strikingly similar to the one elected just 2 years ago in 2019. The snap election call, sending Canadians to the poll for the second time in 2 years, was widely seen as a bid by Mr. Trudeau to secure a majority government, and he struggled to explain why a campaign was necessary at this time. So there you have it. Trudeau has won again. Doesn't have the majority, full majority, but we'll see how that shapes up as the votes continue to come in. Okay. There's some other news on the pandemic front affecting our neighbors to the south. Grenada is in serious problems, St. Lucia all in serious problems, and trying different ways to deal with that. And in the United States, as of November, early November, you're not able to enter the United States unless you're fully vaccinated. That will come into effect in November. So be aware of that. Alright. It is said that you must be fully vaccinated and have a test within 72 hours of arrival in the United States. And what is that now? Yeah, there's no quarantine, right? No quarantine once you get there, but you must be fully vaccinated to enter the United States come November. All right, so that's what's happening in the news. Today, I want to have a discussion as we continue to celebrate our independence for the rest of the month. It is normally a whole month of celebration for us. It is our most patriotic month. We as nationals of this country, we're proud of our country. And throughout this month, we are talking and doing all of the patriotic things, which we should always do, but it's highlighted. And we talk about our allegiance, and our obedience and adherence to our country. And one of the things that strikes me is when we talk about nationalism, patriotism, allegiance, and all of that, some people question, for example, why is it that a national of St. Kitts and Nevis having acquired citizenship from another country cannot hold office. Well, our Constitution speaks to that in 28(1)(a) especially, which speaks to how that works. And that is the section is referred to as disqualifications for representatives and senators. And a lot of times people ask the question in this way: why I can't have dual citizenship and serve? Which is not necessarily the correct question, or question framed correctly, because that is not necessarily true. It is not that you can't have dual citizenship and serve in our parliament. And I'll tell you what I mean. Because when you look at the disqualifications for representatives and senators, there are a number of disqualifications listed. You have, for example, you cannot serve in parliament if you're under sentence of death imposed on you or a person by a court of law in any part of the Commonwealth, right? It's one disqualifying. Or if you're a person certified to be insane, right? You understand that, right? Or if you are an undischarged bankrupt, having been adjudged or otherwise declared bankrupt under any law. Or if you are a minister of religion. I always wonder why that one exists, but more and more I'm coming to understand it, but that's for another time. But the important one to focus on is the very first one, A. A person shall not be qualified to be elected or appointed as a member if he or she is, by virtue of his or her own act, under any acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power or state. Now, why was it important for me to emphasize that? Is because, again, we talk about dual citizenship, but it's not about dual citizenship. It's about being under an acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power or state. And if that is found to be the case, then you are disqualified. Now, you may be listening and say, well, isn't it the same thing if you have dual citizenship? No, it's not. Because, as stated here some time ago when we had a discussion on this, my own children can serve in Parliament in St. Kitts and Nevis. None of them were born in St. Kitts and Nevis. All of them have dual citizenship. But the difference lies in, it was not by virtue of their own act that they are under acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power. It is not their own act that made them citizens of a foreign state or power. They were born there. It is not that they went and on their own took up citizenship in the United States. So they had nothing to do with it. That's the difference. And they are otherwise qualified, because the qualification is, apart from the other stuff like 21 years old and so on, they are qualified by virtue of the fact that at least one of their parents was born in St. Kitts and Nevis, which is the qualification. Either you or one of your parents, right? So they qualify. And so, in that sense, they would be, qualified to serve in Parliament, even though they have dual citizenship. So it's not that dual citizenship is the issue. It is the considered by virtue of their own act, if they are adjudged to be in acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to foreign power. That's the difference. And I say all of this because we've had a very popular case here in St. Kitts and Nevis with respect to this same section of the Constitution, where a member of Parliament was, at the time when this case was brought, was said to have, by virtue of his own act, was under acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to a foreign power or state. Now, the defense was that he was not a citizen or did not apply for citizenship, but instead had a diplomatic passport, say, right? And the funny thing is that the court, in looking at that, actually thinks that's worse. Because, well, let's go first with the similarities. The court would feel, in that particular case, that according to their own statement, that the fact that you apply for and was issued and used, those are the three things the court will talk about. You applied for, was issued, and used. And in this case, the court has said that the defendant here used, or the respondent here has used this passport for travel purposes to 7 different countries on 10 different occasions. And the court has a feeling that if you applied, were issued, and used it, then, like all passports, there is a particular clause which says to the receiving state that you should grant the bearer of this instrument, the bearer of this document, all the privilege and rights that would go to an individual who is a citizen of my country. They're carrying my passport. And so I stand by them. And they deserve all the privilege and rights that go with that passport as a citizen of my country would. And so by virtue of that, there is a reciprocal, since they are willing to defend you and stand up for you because you're using their passport, there is a sort of reciprocal obligation on your part, or to use the language on the other side of that, you are, by virtue of your own act, under the acknowledgement and allegiance and obedience or adherence to that foreign state whose passport you're using, diplomatic or otherwise. Now, it goes further, and the argument goes further in saying that if you are using it, you're expecting certain benefits, right? And if you're expecting certain benefits, the benefits includes all those things that I talk about that will be given to a citizen of that state or a passport holder of that state, right? But the argument goes deeper in that it is also saying that if something happens while you're using this particular country's passport, and I am a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, but I'm using the other country's passport, and something comes up where, as a Kittian, there is a conflict between what I do for St. Kitts and Nevis or for that other country. If, because I was born in St. Kitts, I choose to take the side of St. Kitts, that other countries whose passport I'm using, they can actually prosecute me for treason or something to that effect. So if that is true, and they have stated a number, or cited, as they would say, a number of cases where this has happened to support the point. So if it is true that that state can prosecute me for taking the side of St. Kitts and Nevis, where I was born, while using their passport, then it also suggests that, again, I am under an acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence to that foreign power or state. So this is where the whole thing ties up, and not so much as we say about dual citizenship or I did not have citizenship, but from the time you accept or from the time you apply and was issued and used, all these things come into play when you're using it. And so therefore you could be adjudged as having some sort of allegiance or obedience or adherence to that foreign state. And that's where it comes down in making a judgment as to whether or not somebody is disqualified using 28(1)(a). Now, with other arguments on the dual citizenship side, where people don't agree that it necessarily means that dual citizenship means you have allegiance to the other, because in your mind you could be thinking something else, right? I agree with that. That could be true. You know, I could take up citizenship in another country for another reason, for all kinds of reasons, but I still feel my allegiance to St. Kitts and Nevis, and it's strong, right? But it is, as they say, it is a test that when challenged, it's a test of whether or not a court will find in their judgment that the act, right, your own act, has caused or looks like an acknowledgement of allegiance to some other foreign power. So we could debate about whether or not that is good or that is bad, dual citizenship, because we've talked about how so many of our citizens are overseas and doing well and making contributions to other countries, They're good at what they do, but if they want to come home and participate in the political process, at least at the elected level, they can't, because the fact that they took up citizenship by virtue of their own act, have gone and sworn allegiance. Right? So in that case, they have actually sworn allegiance. Now, in the case that we are discussing or mentioned, there's an argument that no allegiance was sworn, but a court could still find that the act itself and what goes along with it, like I said, creates that situation where you now have to have allegiance and obedience, because like I said, it is found that that foreign state can prosecute you if some conflict comes up where you took the side of St. Kitts and Nevis, your bonding land, because you're using their passport and benefiting from the privileges and securities that their passport is expected to give you on the receiving country. So that's a debate that people have, but judges find differently after weighing all of the ins and outs and citing precedents here and there. And there's one thing about the legal profession. I mean, there's in court cases there usually some precedent. Usually there's some precedent for cases that come before the courts, and they use it to make decisions, and a number of those have been cited. So there you have it. All right, it's a Tuesday. 465-2555, local number. 718-577-2916 is that overseas number. It is September. We're still in our celebratory mode for our independence, even though we are about to turn our focus on 50 years of National Carnival. I actually have started to focus on that. But we continue through the month in the independence and nationalistic and patriotic mode, talking about all things national to St. Kitts and Nevis, and we're talking about representing and disqualifications and all of that. All right, so we could take a break, and when we come back on the other side, those numbers you can use to get in on a discussion on anything I just laid out. We'll be back.
Something new, something fresh, something exciting. Jump Off Show on Said I Said Radio with the man Chico. Yo. Every Monday to Thursday, Chico will be in the house with the 3 to 6 minutes. So tell your neighbors, tell your friends about this exciting show on Said I Said Radio, the Jump Off Show. Every Monday to Thursday, 3 to 6. Don't miss it. While the others give you some, we give you more. Right here on Said I Said Radio. Watch the creeper.
It's the end of Summer Madness sale, and it's only at Courts Optical. For a limited time only, buy one pair of glasses and get the second pair free. Plus, if you come in before September 17th, you will get an extra 30% discount or special offer when you trash your old pair of frames in the Optical price bin. No cash, no problem. Shop with ready finance and pay $0 for 60 days. Plus, walk away with a free pair of sunglasses. Make an appointment online today at courtsoptical.com and ask us about our free blue block and free eye exams. Beat the summer blues and save on your new eyewear with our end of summer madness sale. Terms and conditions apply. Optical, value you can see.
Every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. ZIZ Radio goes into overdrive with the Magic Fingers Ronnie Rascal Mega Mix Show. You heard?
Lock your dial to 96.1 FM.
It's the show that brings the vibes to your Saturday afternoon lime, bar hopping, party hangouts, or just driving around.
You don't want to miss the Saturday Mega Mix Show. You don't want to miss the Saturday Mega Mix Show.
It's old school and new school remixes by yours truly, Magic Fingers Ronnie Rascal, every Saturday from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. ZIZ Radio.
In the house.
All right, welcome back to Frank and Candid on this brand new week, this Tuesday after a long weekend of fun, mini culture, Amway Nevis, Independence, and St. Kitts and Nevis. We are back to the grind this morning. Hope all went well. All right, phone numbers 465-2555, 718-577. 2916, and we will take your calls, hear what you have to say. Let's say good morning. Welcome to Frank and Candid. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Greetings in the name of our African ancestors, especially the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey and Queen and Zing. God bless them, my beloved African brother. How are you, all the family?
We're all doing well. You?
Good, man, and the clan is good. But I have to laugh, because this ridiculous, backward, nonsensical constitution, so-called constitution of St. Kitts Nevis, should be thrown in the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. Because, brother, those things, what you think of, makes no sense. I was born in St. Kitts Nevis, or any other body. Born in St. Kitts Nevis. You got the adopt citizenship of another country. Furthermore, there is financial advancement, educational advancement, better your life in all fields of life, beloved brother. And because you do that, you cannot. It makes no sense whatsoever. On the other hand, you have children, grandchildren. I don't know if you go as far as great-grand. I don't know. I know you got children, grandchildren. So you could, think, man. It goes as far as great-grandbrother? I know you go as grand.
I think grand is where it stops. Grand.
Huh?
Grand.
Okay. I figure that, So, but that makes no sense. In the case with me, only one of my children, beloved, my 6 children, have citizenship of St. Kitts and Nevis. And my youngest son, my youngest child, Kwame. And he wanted to do that to his 2 children. We make 3 years, and one made 3 years September 15th, and the other one, and Kosi, going on 6 months. Next month, going to make him 6 months. But he wanted to tell me, so I said, your child, grandchildren, your children or grandchildren could run for any office while you lay out bankruptcy, any other things, But that makes no sense whatsoever. That's why I say St. Kitts Nevis need a new constitution. Ain't no reform for that nonsense, man. No reform whatsoever. That done dead on arrival. I just St. Kitts Nevis and other parts in the Caribbean. But St. Kitts Nevis, my neighbor string buried. Deep to be exact. So me and deal with St. Kitts Nevis. But it makes no sense. No sense. And you want to tell me, look at some part of so-called constitution. Some English boy, some English girl, some national from other countries, a slave, neo-slave organization, so-called Commonwealth. Because that's a new colonialistic organization. Could come live in the St. Kitts Nevis. What, a year? Or 2 years, whatever? Vote. And the you must be a citizen of England and Australia and Canada in order to vote in those places. Then the slave laws, beloved, makes no sense. And you want to tell me, had three, since pseudo-independence, right? Political independence, we have three administrations. NRP, Prime Administration, the guy from St. Paul, Cabal, and now Team Unity Administration, and none of them. In all the thing, you got to go to a referendum or thing. You only take it act, a National Assembly, a act of the National Assembly, and none of them. None of your administration them. See, look at the Prime Minister thing. Team Unity hide. They come at it, it looked like it was a ploy before election. And I don't care who man, it was a ploy. Because since election, June of last year, right? Nothing whatsoever. They not bring up that in a National Assembly again. And they have the 2/3. Super majority. Now you see, these people, man, they play games with people, and they need to stop it. Team Unity Administration too. There's some good things they done. They did some great things too. But this, it just got to take willpower. Come on, man. Drop the cloak of colonialism. Done with that, man. Done with that. It looks like you like to pledge allegiance to Elizabeth and her heirs and successor instead of pledging allegiance to the people of St. Kitts Nevis. Come on, Dr. Harris. You're still young. Gone to politics. I don't believe you're 60 years yet. Come on, man. Get some vision, some Pan-African vision, and do the right thing, beloved. And again, in closing, I still want to know, Sister Cousin Barnes, I thank you for saying what you said, who owned this, but I want to hear it from Dr. Harris himself. And Dr. Harris, you got to answer, man. You got to answer, because if you ain't answer the question by next election, I can support you again, Dr. Harris. So, you got to get things right and deep bear. So that the plural condition, Kansas partial with the clinging and everything. Come on, you got to do the right thing. Correct that, man. And the whole of St. Kitts, I know money is kind of tight, but you all have money to do other things. Do the right thing and do it now. And let me say, we must become a republic by 2025 and chow them nonsensical thing. Dump it in the Atlantic Ocean and in the Caribbean Sea. But again, for hearing me, Pan-Africanism our Paris. One love.
Okay, one love. All right. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to Franklin Candid.
Hello, Mr. Nice.
Hey, yes. Good morning.
Good morning. Calling you from New York. This is Sonny One.
Yes, sir.
I need to ask a question. Did St. Kitts had a constitution before they become independent?
Did St. Kitts have a constitution before they become independence? Yeah, we always had a constitution.
Okay, well, you answer this for me. Paul Southwell was not born in St. Kitts or Nevis. He was born in Dominica. And he became premier when Bradshaw left St. Kitts and went to join the Federation. And while Bradshaw was gone, we had to vote. Well, I wasn't old enough to vote. They had a thing that said, vote for Allen, you vote for Bradshaw, to keep Bradshaw in the assembly, in the legislature. Then when the Federation defunct, Bradshaw came back to St. Kitts and resumed his premiership. But if my memory serves me right, Southwell never was elected to be the premier of St. Kitts. He inherited because Bradshaw left and went to Trinidad. Derrick William asked him to come to Trinidad and be the third man in line in the Federation. Now the question is now St. Kitts got a constitution.
Independence.
And St. Kitts, Now they have a constitution because they're independent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is this: why would foreigners that wasn't born in St. Kitts could become prime minister or be part of the legislature, even though their parents, they don't have no parents, was born there, but through citizenship, they can be part of the legislature. In America...
No, they can't. No, they can't.
No, they can't?
No, they can't.
Okay, well, I stand to be corrected. But my question to you, and you never answer it.
Uh-huh.
I told you Paul Southwell become premier. He wasn't prime minister yet. He was premier.
Mm-hmm.
But he was never elected.
Okay.
So I would like, can you explain that to me?
Well, I don't know what's to explain. He was Bratcher's deputy, and when Bratcher passed away, he was the...
No. Bratcher didn't pass away. Bratcher went to Trinidad to join the Federation.
And he was holding on to the chief minister in St. Kitts and Nevis. Correct?
Yeah, when Bratcher was absent, and when Bratcher come back, he resumed his position.
Right. So what's the point? What's your question?
Well, you answered my question already.
Oh, okay.
The question was, the last part, I said before St. Kitts had a constitution, those things could happen. And you said it can't happen now.
Even though that's a debate, if you're talking about people who have, for example, citizenship by investment, that's a debate because the citizenship by investment individuals are not allowed to vote. All right?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay. However, there is a legal discussion about whether or not somebody could challenge that, because a citizen is a citizen. You don't have two tiers of citizenship. So if somebody says and they want to challenge that, if I become a citizen, I am to be afforded all the benefits that go with citizenship, correct?
Exactly.
So
that's what happened in America.
Okay, so that's a debate. No, not necessarily, because even if I become a citizen of America, I cannot become president.
Oh, yes, you're right, because Alexander Hamilton could not become president.
Right, so it exists in America.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Nyers, thank you.
All right. It must be natural born, as they say, right? Okay, so that debate exists, but the legal minds will work that out, trash that out.
Mr. Nyers?
Yes, good morning.
Morning. Let me ask you a complex question. Before became a federation, we had a state constitution, yeah.
Right.
But what he talking about with Mr. Southwell and thing, we were colonial. Yeah.
At that time, right?
Yeah, so we had no constitution. But we had administrator, so Mr. Bratcher had asked the administrator to let Southwell step down, and I think they vote. They didn't. They just put up Mr. Bratcher. Mr. Bratcher decided he must be the chief minister, but Mr. Southwell was the elected chief minister.
Okay.
But he asked in complex question with constitution. We had a constitution from 1967.
67.
Yeah, and it was the state of St. Kitts and Anguilla.
And Angola, right.
Yeah. But then Angola came out, but we still had the part there. But when we became a federation in 1983, we used the federation, and then we make the clause for the navies and whatnot. But once we went to the, we call it the statehood, we had to take, because remember all our executive were from St. Kitts, because before 67, all like the Attorney General was posted from England, and prison officers, so we had no say in these things. Even chief medical officers, so England do all these things. It's only after 83 now they can't tell us which nation to join. That's why we went to Taiwan early.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So some people get mixed up, but there's a constitution before 1983. Okay then.
Okay. Thank you. All right, let's go back to the phones. We got lost that caller. Let's try this. Good morning. Welcome to Frank and Candid.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Nias. Again, 241.
Yes, I see that.
I was calling before my sister.
I see that, yes.
Good morning, Carol. Good morning to all the citizens of St. Christopher and Nevis. Happy Independence. It is not a one-day thing.
Right.
Now, the matter with Mr. Bratcher and Mr. Southwell, I think some of us get confused. Somebody say he was not elected. Mr. Bratcher left and Mr. Southwell was the chief minister. Chief minister. He did not become a premier until after Mr. Bratcher died, because there was no position called premier until after we had associated statehood. Or the person listening in 1967. The chief minister. And when Mr. Bratcher came back, Mr. Southwell was not holding his position. I think we get confused. Mr. Bratcher's election seat was contested and won by somebody else. He won. So you couldn't pass it on. Mr. Bratcher could not pass it on. Just like how no Prime Minister could just pass on the position. In 1966, they had an election. And, of course, the Labour Party won. Mr. Bratcher ran then. So he was here from 62 to 66 as a minister with a portfolio. If it was his position, he would have taken it, wouldn't he?
I would think so.
Yeah, when you come back for it. In 66, the Labour Party won again. And Mr. Southwell should have been the chief minister. Mr. Bratcher went, and the information can be found in Sir Fred Phillips' book. Have you ever read that book?
No, I've heard of it, but
Try and get your hand on it.
okay.
But he described the whole scenario. Mr. Bratcher went up to the governor's house ahead of Mr. Southwell to report that they had won, and he indicated to the governor that his people had chosen him as the leader. So he was given the position as chief minister. When Mr. Southwell turned up, the governor informed him that he was too late because Mr. Bratcher had already come and he had already given the position to Mr. Bratcher. So Southwell was undercut. Anyway, you went into thing in 67, and at that point they moved from chief minister to premier. Now there was a constitution in 67. Most of that is inside of the 83 Constitution. So it wasn't a new one altogether. Now the issue with the citizenship by investment, before they bought it, it was not told to them before they bought it. They knew when they applied for citizenship by investment that they were not allowed to vote. The law clearly states it. If by some means or some coercion, one government decides to let them vote, they still cannot sit in parliament. Because none of their parents.
Right.
If their children are born overseas, the children cannot sit in parliament. Because the law says one or two or your grandmother. So they will have no claim. If they come home and get them, then they are born citizens. Once you're born here,
Got that, yes.
you're entitled to be prime minister. So like some of the Chinese and the Guyanese and the Jamaicans and some children,
Right.
they can sit in Parliament.
Okay, they're born here.
They're born here.
Right.
But if they're brought here from young, cause sometimes they say, well, I grow up here and whatever. Unless either one of your parents or your grandparent was born in the Federation, you still cannot. Now, the issue with Mr. Southwell was that the concept of a country didn't exist. They were just winners. Even after they were winning since 46 and all that, 52. They didn't have any power. Some of them sat on boards. The governor ran the country. I don't think people know that. In what? I think it's in 51 and 57. It's in 57. I think it's the first time they were given power as chief minister. 57.
Okay.
So all the time they were on different boards and whatever, but they were not running the country. So from 57, 58, when Mr. Bratter left, so he did not go and tell Mr. Southwell, well, you take the position. The party said would have taken it, since Southwell was known as the second man, right? Paul Southwell and France. It could have been France, you know. But the party decided on Southwell. So Southwell did not impose himself. Mr. Bratter did not give it to him. Now, when you become independent now, the issue becomes important because we would have ended up with maybe another foreigner as our Prime Minister. Oh, well, why? What does it matter? It matters when you're in a small country. When you're in a big country, you could be the governor of a state or something. But even large countries state that when it comes to the president, he must have allegiance with no other country. That is the concept, you know.
Right.
Should we go to war? On whose side are you?
Yeah.
If we have difficult relation with another country, on whose side are you? You say, look, how you have CPL? You notice when some people, I'm going to call the name, when they're playing with the Patriots, some of them can't score.
Okay.
But when they're on the countryside, they're batting well.
Okay.
Or when they're on the Patriot and they're playing against their home team, they're getting the out first ball. You get the concept?
I got the conspiracy.
Yeah, but I am trying to explain.
I got you, Ms. Henry. Okay.
I'm trying to explain the position of having a foreigner holding the highest position.
Got you. All right.
You know, maybe some of them could think, but you see, if they go in the house, then the question becomes, if they're already in the house, why can't they become? Because in the U.S., people say, oh, in the U.S., our people there and our people there. Unless we are willing to put a bar, no foreigner. Because even in the Jews, nobody's supposed to lead them who not a Jew. So people have to decide what it is they want. And when people talking about the Constitution, 38 years and nobody changing anything, and everybody complaining, and where do we start?
All right, Miss Henry.
All right, then.
Gotta go. All right. Let's. Okay. 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 All right. Let's take this one. Good morning. Welcome to Frank and Candid.
Good morning, Mr. Nyers.
Good morning, sir.
Let them know that Southwell probably came from Dominica when Dominica was part of the Leeward Islands.
Okay.
Because a lot of people know that Dominica was part of the Leeward Islands.
That's true.
And unless you don't know your history, we're going to go wrong. So we got the Cato and Compton and them South different countries where they're born in, you know. Check out the Windward Islands with Cato and Compton. They were prime minister, premier, and thing of countries where they're born. Okay.
Okay. That's it. Okay. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to Frank and Candid. Good morning, caller. You're live.
Good morning, Mr. Nash.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
There's a legal and moral aspect to this issue, and
which one? Which issue?
the issue of citizenship.
Okay.
And and dual citizenship and the implications. And, you know, both the legal and moral aspect can conflict with each other.
Okay.
The legal framework was put in place by legislators who had all kinds of nefarious reasons for doing so. I mean, from way back when the Constitution was designed to when the regulations were tampered with just to disbar particular candidates, right? I mean, how can you design a constitution to target one man or a particular group of citizens? But the law is the law, right? Whether it's bad and unjust and asinine as it may be, the law is the law. And those that must interpret the law have the weight of justice on their shoulders, okay? In terms of the moral aspect, we have to remember things like borders and sovereignty and nationality and nationalism and patriotism. All those are essentially artificial things. They were set up to control and regulate the activities of human beings. In other words, it's territorial in nature, right? A group or a race or a tribe decide this is my land and I'm going to defend it at all costs, and so they put these artificial strictures in place, okay, like citizenship and nationality. We know though that since way back, things like immigration, whether legal or illegal, challenge that concept. People will always gravitate to where the opportunities are, okay, and they're not concerned with the borders. As long as they get through, they get through, okay? And personally, I think that's how it should be, right? You're for a group of people to decide this part of earth is mine and mine alone, okay? Americans belonged to the Indians before the white man came. The Arawaks and the Caribs occupied these islands before the Europeans and the Africans came. So it's all artificial and dynamic. We have no idea how we will look like 50 years from now, what the new demographics will be. Neither does the States for that matter. That's why they have so many problems now. They're scared, for instance, that they may lose, that whites may lose their dominance, okay? If the CBI people challenge the regulations regarding voting, that case would be interesting, okay? I mean, how can you have a citizen not being able to vote, okay? We have no idea, you know, what the outcome of that would be. And the fact is, one can argue that if it is inappropriate for a dual citizen to run for office, well, it should be inappropriate for any such citizen to be able to simply renounce it and become a candidate. What happened? He loses loyalty overnight or something? Okay, that don't make sense.
Oh, he never had it.
Huh?
Oh, he never had it.
Oh, he never had it, right? The fact is, it's all artificial. So, you know, this natural born thing is I think, it's a spurious thing to look at, and it cannot determine where your loyalty lies. As you well know, there are people in the diaspora, there are citizens there who are better citizens than some resident citizens who couldn't care less about local politics or how their country looks or those kinds of things. Okay? People in the diaspora are better citizens. They pay more attention to what's going on here than some of these here. So I say just free up everything and let the people decide, right? In that, to me, that's the essence of democracy. Anyway, the majority of people deciding who is going to represent them. Okay, regardless of where they come from, what race they are, what the background is, whether they have dual citizenship or not, just free up everything. That's my view.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your view. All right. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Welcome to Frank and Candid.
Mr. Ness, good morning. I have a question to ask you.
Sure.
Can a country become a republic and still be a member of the Commonwealth?
Yes, they can. Why couldn't they?
Okay. Huh? No, I just wanted. That's
okay,
the question
okay,
I wanted to know.
Okay.
Okay, because and what is the difference? I see this guy from the States. He keep talking about we should become a republic. What is the difference between a republic, a country that is a republic, and a country that is the way we are right now? What benefit there is? Any greater benefit being a republic?
Well, we're going to talk about that this week, but that is exactly the point, that the argument that some people are making. Is there any benefit other than a lot of emotions? There are a lot of emotions, and you get rid of the Queen as head of state. You have your own head of state.
Like, I personally believe that they should get rid of it. There wasn't a time when the governor head used to be on our money.
Well, yeah, I think so. A long time ago, I think.
Yeah, a long time ago. Well, why they took it off?
I'm not sure. But anyway, well, the Queen was always there, wasn't she?
I think the Queen was there, and if I'm not mistaken, the governor was on the other side, or he was on some denomination of money. I'm not too sure which one. But I'm just asking this question,
Yeah.
Because my friend there, the guy there, he's always talking about becoming a republic, so I want to know, what are the benefits?
Well, yeah, we definitely going to talk about that this week. That's coming up, a discussion on the benefits, if there are any.
If there is, yes, right.
Right, and we will get to that by Thursday.
Okay.
And we'll have that discussion too, because that's an interesting discussion. There's some people, as a matter of fact, throughout the region, there are other countries who have put that to a referendum and lost. So which means that a lot of the people have voted against the idea of getting rid of the Queen. So it's not cut and dry that the people, or the majority of the people, want it. Now I understand all the arguments and that exist. Let's get rid of the Queen. I mean, yeah, okay, sure. I mean, no problem with that. I certainly understand that. But let's drill down into that later this week, and let's hear from people as to how they feel. Barbados is about to do that in November. By the time they celebrate independence is what they're thinking. They're working on it as we speak. Fidel Castro at one time had something to say about that in reference to Antigua, when Antigua wanted to go to a republic. And he made his position clear. And if he liked Castro, we may not like his opinion on it. But we will see. All right. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you all for your calls, your comments, suggestions, opinions, all of that. We are discussing throughout the rest of this month some of the national stuff, as in today. We talked about allegiance and all of that. We will talk about this week some more of the national stuff, as in overseas vote, and as the caller just pointed out, the issue of going to a republic. Have a great day. I'm Tony Nice. Talk to you tomorrow.